It's the end of the Rajapaksa era in Sri Lanka. Former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has officially resigned and Ranil Wickremesinghe has been sworn in as the acting president.
In the short time I have, I will create the background for the new president who is to be elected next week to bring the 19th Amendment to the Constitution quickly. I will take immediate steps to establish the rule of law and peace in the country. I accept 100% the right to peaceful protests. But some are trying to do acts of sabotage. There are reports that other groups are trying to influence members of parliament at the vote next week to elect a new president. We will create the environment for parliamentarians to express their view independently.
The Speaker has called for Parliament to convene on Saturday and begin the process of electing a new president. The nominations will begin on Tuesday next week and the vote will take place the next day, the 20th of July. Rajapaksa is currently in Singapore. He fled Sri Lanka earlier this week after protesters forced their way into state buildings, including the presidential secretariat. Many in Sri Lanka are celebrating Gotabaya Rajapaksa's resignation as a victory of the people's movement. Sri Lankans have been protesting against Rajapaksa and his government's economic mismanagement for nearly 100 days.
There is a sense of celebration at the moment. I certainly feel, I think the crowd here definitely does feel quite happy about it. But at the same time, I think there's also, until we see the letter, there's always a sense of apprehension.
For more details, joining us now is Jehan Pereira, Executive Director, the National Peace Council of Sri Lanka. He joins us live from Colombo. Thanks so much for joining us. My first question to you, the timeline that the Speaker wants Parliament to observe, how is that likely to play out on ground?
Well, I think they can meet the timeline because it's a controlled process. They have to decide on who the candidate is. It will happen through Parliament. There is I don't see any big problem about the process now going through. It's all according to the Constitution.
Right. What about the next factor, of course, the next question that arises, who is likely to be the next president and how will they get on top of the country's economic challenges?
Yes, now on that, I heard you say that that we have said goodbye to the Rajapaksas, but I don't think that is correct, because while the president has left the country, the Rajapaksa system is very much entrenched in Sri Lanka. For instance, our parliament, which was elected 3 years ago with a majority, close to 2/3 majority, is dominated by the Rajapaksa party. And still the others are here. The rest of the family is in Sri Lanka. That's true. There are some cases against them, against traveling abroad, but they are around. And the parliament, the ruling party, is naturally sympathetic to them. And that's what the protesters want to get rid of. Now, the Prime Minister, who has become the acting president, was nominated by the Rajapaksas, by President Gotabaya. And he was from the opposition. He's a former Prime Minister, very respected person, a very liberal-minded man, and with good international connections. But at the last election, he got decimated from 105 seats to 1 seat, which is the one that he's currently occupying. And he's the one now who has been put forward as the Prime Minister and acting president, chosen by the Rajapaksas. So he's seen as someone who may stabilize the present government.
Right, Jehan, you said something very interesting. Right, you said something very interesting, that the Rajapaksa way of governance is deeply entrenched in Sri Lankan politics. Now we've seen unprecedented protests hit the streets of Colombo. People came in from different parts of the island nation to protest against the Rajapaksa governance and how it has led them to this economic crisis. So should this continue? Is there a way out of this economic mess?
Now, of course, this must not continue. What we have not had in our country is accountability. This is not a problem simply of this government. There was no accountability in previous governments too. Those who were corrupt could get away from it. And the whole system was tightly controlled by the political elite. Our institutions are not that independent. They can be manipulated. We have been trying very hard to create independent institutions, But so far, and it has been an up and down process. At the moment, under the Rajapaksas, the autonomy that the institutions such as the judiciary and the public service, the police had, was reduced. We want that increase. And I think that's the way forward. What we want at the moment, what we really want, is to replace the present government with an all-party interim government, which will address the main economic problems, the scarcity of dollars, where we don't have money to import petrol, diesel, medicine, etc., to deal with that problem, and then hold fresh elections, because the mandate given 3 years ago by the people has been nullified by the protests.
Right, absolutely, Jihan. Thank you so much for all those inputs, and thanks for joining us on WION World is One at this hour. WION World is One is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.